So, I didn't want to do this video for a number of reasons. First, I just came off of a high with Wonder Woman, and I'm about to get into a string of bangers for the next 4 movies in a row. But first I had to get through this unknown called Green Lantern First Flight. I don't mind watching new things, or else I wouldn't be doing this series, but when I'm looking forward to something specific, having to do something else that's similar but less satisfying is never easy. Second, and perhaps a bit unrelated, I haven't wanted to do anything the past week because I've been binging the Warrior series of books. Yeah, the one with the cats, and enjoying them way more than I thought I ever would. I'd read the first series of 6 books and about half of the second series of 6 in middle and high school, and wrote them off as kiddie stuff in my adult life, but even though the prose definitely fits that description, I'm surprised at how enjoyable of a read it's been, with surprisingly mature, well thought out relationships, both between characters and between factions, with an ever-changing narrative and strong central conflict, with our main character trying to root out a traitor within his clan and prove his loyalty to it at the same time. Okay, why am I telling you this, and why should you even care about Warriors? Well, believe it or not, I'm pretty sure that this is the same story with only minor tweaks. Green Lantern First Flight details the origin story of Hal Jordan, aka the Green Lantern, that we all know. He's brought on board the Green Lantern Corps after a mission goes wrong and one of their dying members crash lands on Earth, giving Hal his ring as he passes on. Though the Lanterns and the Guardians that lead them are highly prejudiced against humans, the Lantern Sinestro offers to take Hal under his wing as a partner of sorts in his own mission of locating the criminal Conjar-Ro, who is in possession of the evil weapon known as the Yellow Energy, a force supposedly more powerful than the Green Energy that the Green Lanterns utilize. Unknown to everyone, Sinestro is actually working with Conjar-Ro, with plans to take the Yellow Energy for himself to overthrow the Guardians and the Lanterns, and wishing to quote-unquote fix the universe that the Guardians and the Green Lantern Corps had failed. In the end, though Sinestro successfully obtains the Yellow Energy and becomes a Yellow Lantern, he's defeated by Hal Jordan, who is then fully accepted into the Corps. The end. So from that description, it doesn't sound bad, and that's because it isn't a bad story structure. The mentor character betraying the established organization has almost become overused in my mind, just because, coincidentally, I've been exposed to so many examples in such quick succession, like Belek from AC Unity, which is the best Assassin's Creed, don't at me, Sabayoth from the Thrawn trilogy, that's how the audiobook pronounces it, and now this. That said, this movie is utter dog shit. It is wrong on just about every level except for the conceptual, from the animation to the power scaling to the story. The animation is just stiff. I noticed it pretty starkly in the scene where Hal Jordan inherits knowledge from the Green Energy, just bear with it. Look at Sinestro. Look how awkwardly his body undulates and shifts. It almost looks like the animators are trying to account for breaths, like his chest is heaving to draw in air, right? But the voice acting doesn't match this, and it doesn't really look like that at all anyway. This type of strangeness infects the entire movie. There can never be a scene with static characters except for moving mouths. And while that's an admirable goal, these guys clearly had no idea how to make that come to fruition. Not only do we have the stiff movements of the bodies, but even the idle animations, that is, what the characters are actually doing when speaking, is stiff and awkward. The camera also moves and turns, or the characters turn, or maybe there were too many wacky designs for them to keep track of or whatever, but it was clear to me that the animators had a lot of difficulty getting particularly the faces correct from all these angles. I suppose it looks okay for the quicker shots and the faraway background characters, but then there's something like this 2-second long shot of Sinestro and it just looks awful. Even aside from the gyrating bodies and stiff idle movements, this movie is stuffed to the brim with awful CGI. And I do mean awful. It clashes so hard with the rest of the 2D animated characters and effects of the rings and lasers and stuff, and it was particularly distracting and actually kind of headache-inducing when the Lanterns were chasing those guys through the red boom tube. This moving background coupled with the high-octane action was just absolutely nauseating. The last thing I'll say about the animation is that I found most of the designs boring. The more interesting ones are relegated to background characters, and the ones that are core to the story are all humanoid. 2 arms, 2 legs, a relatively human face, with the exception being Kilowog, who is so boring and generic personality-wise that he makes up for that. Not that he's any worse than anyone else. Everyone in this movie is stupid and boring, and I mean that first one very literally. There are exactly 2 important characters in this movie, Hal Jordan and Sinestro. The others are either throwaway characters like the guy with the beak or the squirrel, or one-off, one-moment, one-trait characters like Kilowog, all of the Guardians, or this random random woman who betrays the Corps with next to no foreshadowing. Like, it's clearly established basically from the outset that Sinestro hates the Guardians, but this chick, Boudica, yes, that's her name, is either smarter about hiding it, or more likely the writers just wanted to have a twist betrayal other than Sinestro. Speaking of, Sinestro is a damned idiot. For this newbie, he makes it no secret that his loyalty doesn't lie with the Guardians or the Corps, viewing them both as failures, which he states outright on their first mission together. He doesn't even try to hide his villainy when he tortures not one, but two people, either in front of another Lantern or on the Lantern's home planet to a prisoner. It's established after the second time that the Guardians have warned Sinestro about doing this type of thing before, so why have they placed him, of all of the Lanterns, in charge of finding the yellow energy, you know, that thing that could destroy them? I refuse to believe that no other Lantern was able to pick up on this obvious resentment, going against the Lantern's code and the hatred of the Guardians. I refuse to believe Sinestro would ever make it as far as he did and have as much trust as he does within the Corps. When he's contacted by Kanjar-Ro in the middle of launching an attack on him, he doesn't even try to hide that he's talking with him through his ring. Like, he didn't think that someone might turn around and say, "What are you doing?" You didn't even try, man! Hal Jordan might be the worst, though. It's established during the assault on Kanjar-Ro and his goons that the Lanterns have the ability to scan through objects, kind of like Superman's X-ray vision, and we're shown that it can detect people that are invisible when Hal finds one of Kanjar-Ro's goons that way. Yet, when he pursues Kanjar-Ro onto his escape ship, already knowing that they're aware of his presence since he was already attacked, Hal doesn't use his search function. He just walks into the command room like an idiot and gets knocked out because he deserves it. This stupidity extends to the rest of the Lanterns as well, but I'll go into that a bit when I talk about the power system and how it doesn't make any damn sense. And it's not just the heroes that are stupid. The villains are just as dumb. They have devices to turn invisible, right? Well, they're so dumb that none of their group stops and thinks, hey, we shouldn't walk through this smoke cloud because that will give away our position. Or, hey, we shouldn't walk into this guy and expose our positions and that we're invisible. I can't. I tried to hold off as long as I could, but here we go. Now, I'm a sucker for good magic systems in media. And magic doesn't have to be strictly magic like Harry Potter. It's just a term used for any kind of controlled supernatural phenomenon in fiction that has rules. So bending in Avatar is a magic system, as an example, even though it doesn't actually use spells. More relevantly, the Green Lantern rings also use their own magic system, except it's so poorly defined and variable that it loses all impact. So, first problem, it's never explained how the rings work except that they run off the power of the green energy or battery or whatever. How do the Lanterns use them? Who knows? How did Hal Jordan know how to use it without even knowing what it was? And yes, that happens. He's attacked by other Lanterns who thinks he killed the one who gave the ring to Hal, and he fights back with his own constructs and stuff with no training. How do the constructs even work? Who knows? Actually, I know. They work however the writing needs them to work to make things happen. At one point, Hal is pinned down and creates a shield to defend himself from laser blasts. Okay, Lanterns can create shields to defend themselves, sure. But then, someone shoots a missile thing and it plunges into the shield like it's jello and becomes lodged in it and everything blows up? What? Later on, the Lanterns are trying to stop this innocent ship from crashing into this building, so they shoot beams through it and make hooks or anchors or whatever? Do the Green Lantern constructs use physics? How do the Lanterns decide when their proverbial line is supposed to be taught? Why not just envelop the ship in the Green Lantern energy and stop it that way? Is there a limit to any of this? Never explained. Later, they're chasing this ship through the red boom tube and Hal uses the stupid hook again, sure, but more importantly, they're using the rings like fucking guns. What? How about making a shield to block the hundreds of lasers shooting at you? What happens when that one Lantern is blasted into the edge of the boom tube? Does he disintegrate? That's what it looks like. Is it like the Bifrost from Thor where he's just sent across the universe or something? Later, when the ship is decoupled from the front part, it scrapes on the side of the boom tube. So it's a wall? How does this boom tube work? Why do they create guns? Yes, that happens at some point in this movie. There are lasers being shot and he makes a regular regular fucking machine gun. If the Lantern's ring lasers and Hal's hook construct move faster than their ship they're chasing, why can't they just fly fast enough to catch up? Because their flight and their constructs use the same powers to do it. They envelop themselves in the Lantern energy and move the energy with them in it, right? None of them can just fly. Hal is a regular human. And when the rings are drained of power in the finale, all of the Lanterns plummet to the ground. So why can't they use their rings to catch up? Or why don't they combine their powers to make a larger construct to block the ship from passing? Like an uber dense wall or a net or something. I thought of that in like 5 minutes. So I'm sure it wouldn't have been that hard to think of something more interesting than this piece of shit that they came up with. In the climax, why is the yellow energy so dangerous? What are its capabilities? Why are the Green Lanterns so incompetent so as not to be able to match a literal eyeball in the sky? It has one move. It shoots things that are in front of it. Guys, it's not that hard to figure out how to beat this thing. Move behind it, flank it, block its sight with debris, blind it, hide. There are so many solutions, and this is supposed to be the thing that is stronger than the Guardians and the Green Lanterns? What? Why is the Green Lantern Corps so weak? How are they supposed to protect the universe when they can't beat one guy who's slightly stronger than them? Hal Jordan loses his supercharge when he destroys the yellow energy and beats Sinestro in a fair fight. Oh my god, the choreography in that fight is so bad too. Like, Hal Jordan does the same attack 3 times in a row and it's super slow to execute, and it works all 3 times. It's so embarrassing. Why does Hal Jordan go Super Saiyan earlier? The yellow energy fires its laser into the green energy and the crystal goes out, or I guess it covers it in gold spray paint? And Hal Jordan, human male, regular dude, just has to punch it once out of frustration to bring its power back? What? Why are we afraid of the yellow energy? What makes the yellow energy different from the green energy? Sinestro uses it in the same way he uses the Green Lantern Ring's powers. He flies, create constructs, the whole works. And why does the yellow energy give him a new power ring? Where does his old power ring go? It was never destroyed, right? Why can't he use both the Green Lantern ring and the yellow energy ring at the same time? Wouldn't that be cool? But would it even make a difference since he's still limited to using a single mind to control them? So you just think he'd make things slower, or he would have to change his thinking to use one ring or the other? Or I don't know, because I have no idea how these powers work. The writers have no idea how these powers work. I'm done. I could bitch about all the little things that annoyed me for so much longer. I could mention the many times that Hal Jordan is forced to relinquish his ring, even though the ring is apparently tied to the will of its chosen user, so taking it doesn't do anything because he can will it back to him with a thought, which also means that his desperate search for it in the final battle is really stupid. You know, I could go on and on and on and on. I've done it in the past, but I don't have time to edit something like that together, and I don't care enough to do so. This movie annoyed me on so many levels, but if you don't mind all of these little things, the core story here is fine, I guess. It's completely serviceable if you look past all of these obvious and quite frankly amateurish mistakes in every other aspect of production. But you're free to like this movie, like I said. I just think it's impossible to say that it's actually good if you just think for a second.